Hey everyone, this video will be on inappropriate emotion. What you may notice in a narcissist or sociopath is that they exhibit inappropriate emotion in certain situations. This topic can somewhat be related to my previous video on being childish, and another one on lack of boundaries. I'll put those two in the description box, so check them out if you haven't already. They'll help you understand what I'm about to say. As you would observe in young children that aren't emotionally or psychologically developed yet, the narcissist also has a lot of inappropriate reactions to situations. I will give you an example of what I experienced for each type of situation. For instance, they may not be sad at a funeral, even someone who's close to them. A few years ago, a friend of ours was unfortunately killed in a car accident. Robert and I went to his funeral, and he knew all of our friends would be there, so he treated it more like a social gathering for fun, rather than what it was, which was a sad, tragic event. Everyone was given the opportunity to say a few words, and everyone made these really beautiful, very heartfelt speeches, and in his selfish, embarrassing style, made the entire thing about him. He saw an opportunity to talk to a group of people. He took that opportunity, and he made the most inappropriate speech I've ever heard. Narcissists may also become ridiculously angry and frustrated at things. They get very impatient with things they have no control over, like if food is taking too long to cook, or if they have to wait in line for something. They will exhibit an abnormal level of frustration. But this is very generalized anger. When they respond to a perceived threat to their self-esteem, they exhibit a behavior known as narcissistic rage. It's a very specific type of anger, and it is reserved for only when they're angry at someone for criticizing them or to a perceived threat to their ego. And this goes back to the childish body language. They'll groan, they'll pout, they'll stomp around. They'll have a full-blown tantrum like a kid. As I've said before, Robert is a musician, so when he would find out that his band didn't get a gig that he inquired about, he would pace around and yell and scream. He looked at this as a huge injury. To him, not getting a gig meant one thing. It meant he was not good. It didn't mean that the show was booked. It didn't mean anything like that. It meant that he was not good. And this, of course, was a huge blow to his ego. He raged, and he didn't stop. Sometimes for days and weeks, he would complain about the same thing. And sometimes he would bring it up later when he was raging about something completely unrelated. He would go on Facebook and make these crazy updates targeting the booking agent, targeting other people, saying, "You suck, this person sucks, this guy doesn't know real talent, nobody work with them." It was a lot of anger directed at people and things that just didn't warrant these reactions. Narcissistic rage is a very extreme and very immature anger reaction to things. On the total opposite end of the spectrum, they will exhibit a very eerie state of calm. This was probably the scariest one of them all, and it just didn't really make any sense because especially a lot of narcissists have generalized anxiety, so they get very upset easily. So when you should be cautious and concerned about something, they will be completely zen. If you've never experienced this, it's really, really weird. So all the examples of my ex-boyfriend acting very calm, they're all weather related. Like that was his thing that he never took seriously. So we live on the coast in the Northeast, and the snow up here can get pretty bad. It's actually bad right now. I'm snowed in. It's like up to my window. So there have been times where it was just dangerous to be outside. It was too cold, too windy, too icy. The weather report urged people to stay home. There were times when my car was slipping all over the icy road, and this guy was completely unfazed. He was just sitting there in the passenger seat playing with his phone. A few years ago, during a storm, we were driving up a very steep hill, and my car actually started to slide back down. I lost control, skidded off the road, and we got stuck in a mountain of snow. We could have gotten seriously hurt, and he didn't even realize the severity of the situation. I called the tow company. I was panicking because it was a weekend. I knew we'd be stuck there for a while, and he just sat there and played with his phone like nothing was happening. It was really strange. So living on a coastal region, the floods during the summer rainstorms can get pretty out of control. The streets look like rivers. You need to get your car to higher grounds and leave it there. So I remember we were driving somewhere late at night during one of these storms, And lightning was hitting power lines. There were sparks everywhere. The wind was crazy. Street signs were falling over. It was like the most terrified I've ever been. It was raining so hard I couldn't see anything. The entrance ramp to this bridge that we needed to take was flooded. We had to find a detour. The storm was knocking out the GPS signal. I couldn't see anything. It was really bad. And he was just sitting there playing with his phone. He just completely ignored the situation and let me navigate by myself. During Hurricane Sandy, which devastated most of where we live, he didn't seem to think it was a big deal. It happened a day or two before Halloween, and like a little kid who didn't understand anything, his only concern was finding a Halloween party to go to. There were warnings to find a safe place and to stay home. He wanted to go out, and he couldn't understand why nobody wanted to go out. A giant tree fell inches from my car and blocked the entire street. There was no electricity. There was no traffic lights. There were pieces of houses and cars in the street. The streets were flooded. Any normal person was at home. There was a state of emergency. You weren't even allowed to be out. And he didn't understand why people didn't want to hang out. And after the storm, there was a gas shortage. I couldn't even fill up my car. And he still didn't understand why people didn't want to come over. He accused me of being selfish and not wanting to drive over to go see him. The whole thing just made no sense to me. So I'd be really curious to hear about what your experiences are with this topic. How did your narcissist show inappropriate emotions and behaviors in times of tragedy or danger? And did they get frustrated over something really small? Leave me a comment and thank you for listening. I'd be really curious to hear what you guys have to say about this.